Good morning, everybody. My name is Anthony Guglielmi, and we're here today for a very important announcement. I'd now like to turn this over to the Commonwealth Attorney for Fairfax County, Steve Toscano. Mr. Toscano.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for being here. Between the dates of November 12th, 2019, and December 16th, 2019, former Fairfax County Police Officer John Grimes is alleged to have engaged in sexual misconduct with a minor in the Fairfax County Police Public Safety Cadet Program, over whom he maintained a supervisory relationship. Upon reviewing the investigation of this matter, I determined that it was appropriate to charge Mr. Grimes with 3 counts of custodial indecent liberties, a Class 6 felony, and yesterday a grand jury agreed with me. Therefore, today I'm announcing the indictment of John Grimes on these charges. Mr. Grimes faces up to 15 years in prison and would be required to register as a sex offender if convicted. Crimes of a sexual nature against minors are some of the most heinous crimes. And whenever we see these crimes, I can't help but think of my daughter and how painful it would be if she were a victim of these types of crimes. So my heart does go out to the victim and her family. And making that even more painful is the fact when these crimes are committed by individuals who are in a position of trust and authority, people who have sworn to protect and serve these individuals. And I think it's important to the people of Fairfax County for them to know that their Commonwealth's attorney takes these types of crimes of a sexual nature against children, very, very seriously. They're a top priority for us. And also they should take comfort in the fact that we recognize in the criminal justice system that no one is above the law. And my job as Commonwealth's attorney is to hold people accountable, and that includes whether or not someone wears a badge. It's a job that I've never hesitated to do, and I will never hesitate to do in the future. And the people of the county should also feel very fortunate that they have a police leadership that feels the same way, that takes these crimes seriously and recognizes that no one is above the law. And to that end, I want to thank Chief Davis, Major Ed O'Carroll, and the team at Major Crimes for taking this very, very seriously and for doing a very thorough investigation and getting us the information that we need that leads to this indictment today so that we can go out and fight for justice. Chief Davis.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Toscano. 99.9%. 99.9% is the percentage of past, present, and future Fairfax County police officers who will never be the subject of a criminal indictment. Our police officers work hard to build and maintain trust within our community every day. I have no tolerance for police officers who abuse that sacred trust. John Grimes spent 3.5 years as a Fairfax County police officer. Yesterday, this former police officer was charged, as Mr. Toscano said, with 3 counts of taking indecent liberties with a minor by a person in a custodial or supervisory relationship. These felony counts stem from incidents that took place in 2019 and victimized one of our public safety cadets. Public safety cadets are between 14 and 21 years old and have an interest in a career as a police officer. Our department was notified of Grimes's criminal misconduct on December 13th, 2019. His crimes were revealed as he was applying for a job as a special agent with the FBI. Our Internal Affairs Bureau immediately acted and relieved Grimes of duty and began their criminal investigation. He was relieved of all police powers. I will call, as I've said before, balls and strikes, and I'll ensure that I and we hold all of us accountable. We have since made changes to the Public Safety Cadet Program in the wake of these troubling allegations. Those changes were made immediately back in 2019, including suspending all ride-alongs. I want to thank the FBI for their help with this case. Our Victim Services Division has also been working with the victim and her family. Like Mr. Toscano, I have a daughter. I can only imagine. I have no pity for Grimes. He took advantage of a teenager, and he did so in and out of a Fairfax County police uniform. This uniform will always be a symbol of trust. It's a uniform that people run towards and take comfort in seeing in their darkest hours. I and the men and women of our department will not tolerate those who tarnish our uniform. And I want to thank Mr. Toscano and his office for their partnership in this very important criminal investigation. And we can take questions now.
Chief, go on.
No, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Mr. Toscano, the chief said that the actions were taken back in 2019. Can you shed a little light on why the indictment is happening now rather than back in 2020?
That's a great question, Neil. And, without getting too far into the weeds and getting into specifics, because obviously I'm limited by what I can say, there are a number of things that happen in these types of investigations that necessarily mean that they do take time, and that these types of crimes tend to be ones that that may not reach a conclusion as quickly as possible. What I can tell you is that when in working with the Major Crimes Bureau, that they moved with alacrity, and that we moved to make a decision as quickly as possible when we had the facts and the evidence that was necessary for us to get an indictment and to be successful at trial.
Question for you, Chief Davis, Jess Arnold with WUSA 9. You mentioned the victim and her family. So she's a female, you're saying. Do you have an age that she is?
At the time when she was a victim of these crimes in 2019, Jess, she was 16 years old.
Okay. And you said that this program is supposed to encourage people who want to get into policing. So I'm sure, this has had an effect on that desire. I mean, have you talked to her family about that? Do you have a message to them about, someone who showed an interest in this profession?
Yeah, how ironic that this program is intended to do one thing, and in fact, she's victimized. But I can tell you this, right now we have 90 public safety cadets in the program. It's a great program. In spite of this, it is a great program. We have 90 public safety cadets. They tend to be younger. We have 10 police cadets. Police cadets are actually part-time and they're paid. They're between the ages of 18, 19, and 20. So you really, as you travel through this program, you start as a public safety cadet, and you can start as young as 14. And then when you hit 18, you can apply to be a police cadet and get paid part-time as you go to college and continue your education and then become a police officer. So we also have 15 active Fairfax County police officers who were at one time public safety cadets or police cadets. We just retired a couple months ago a deputy police chief who was a public safety cadet and a police cadet. It's a shame what Grimes did, because it brings a negative attention to a great local and regional program.
Chief, in protecting the victim's privacy, do you mind sharing whether she still is in the program or continued on and joined the force?
And Neil, that's a great question. I don't want to answer that because I don't want to expose the possibility of identifying her. But that's certainly a logical question. But again, we have maintained contact with her, Neil, and her family ever since 2019. Our Victim Services Division, as you know, does a great job. So I don't want to answer any questions that might narrow the field and possibly identify her. Yes, sir.
You said you suspended ride-alongs. Is that how the abuse occurred?
So we suspended ride-alongs for public safety cadets and police cadets. So her relationship with our police officer, with Grimes, began when Grimes was affording her ride-alongs. And under the previous guidelines, public safety cadets were allowed to participate in ride-alongs. We suspended that ride-along program back in 2019. If and when we decide to start it again in the future, we'll make sure that there are some safeguards built into it so this never, ever happens again.
Was it after that the incident with the same year? Was it after the incident or before the incident?
So the indictment speaks specifically about a particular time frame in 2019.
I'm sorry, the suspension of the ride-along, did that happen after the incident or did that happen before?
That happened when we were made aware of the crimes. So once we were made aware, after the crimes had taken place, we stopped the ride-alongs.
Thank you.
Chief, Tom Rassowitz, Channel 7. when you said the FBI, it came to light after he applied to the FBI. Was that the extensive background check the FBI does, or how did that come to light because he applied to the FBI?
Well, like any law enforcement organization, local, state, or federal, there's a process to become law enforcement. And at some point during their background investigation, they became aware that Grimes, who was also their special agent applicant, may have had an inappropriate relationship, a criminally inappropriate relationship with a minor. So they called timeout and notified us right away. It was December 13th, 2019. And we acted immediately by stripping him of his police powers, relieving him of duty, and initiating a criminal investigation.
Chief, do you have any concerns that there may be other victims?
Absolutely. Our Victim Services Division and our detectives are working to see if that is in fact the case. My office has already reached out to some of the parents of public safety cadets, and I've offered to meet with any and all of them. And that meeting is hopefully going to take place in the near future, because the parents need to know that we care about the safeguards of their children, and they're trusting us with their children. So parents should be concerned. They are concerned, and we're going to do everything we can to communicate with them and build this thing back.
When you say that Grimes was relieved of duty, did he remain on the force for a period of time after that? If so, how long?
He did until May of 2020, and he resigned.
And all during that time, he had no duties? He was...
Correct. He was relieved of duty December 13th, and I think it was May the 8th, early May, where he resigned from the Fairfax County Police Department. So he resigned during the midst of a criminal investigation and administrative review.
What are the specific charges against him?
I don't know if we have them to read, but I know it's specifically, I'll let the Commonwealth do that.
I'll take
Commonwealth
that,
team
yeah.
do it.
I do have those charges. The indictment was a 3-count indictment, and the charge was custodial indecent liberties, and that is Virginia Code 18.2-370.1, subsection A. And it's 3 counts of that same crime.
And you mentioned the possibility of 15 years. Is that 5 for each of those?
That's correct, Neil. That each count carries its separate 5-year sentence.
Chief Davis, you had mentioned that you're making some changes after this. You mentioned the ride-alongs. Curious about the process before all this to select the officers who would be leading this program, and if that's part of the changes that you've made after it.
Absolutely. Well, the ride-along piece of the public safety cadet program and police cadet program stopped back in December of 2019. The parameters surrounding ride-alongs weren't strict enough. And if and when, and it's an if right now, if and when we restore ride-along opportunities to public safety cadets and police cadets, we will build in safeguards. We will identify specific police officers that we know are the best ones to afford these kids, these young people, ride-along opportunities. So all of that will be reviewed. But as you talk to the 15 Fairfax County police officers who are here now, wearing this uniform and this badge and doing it every day, they will tell you, and they've told us, that some of their greatest experiences when they were in the public safety cadet program were ride-alongs, because they get to see, touch, hear, feel. They get a taste for it. So it's a shame that Grimes did something that not only discredited the profession, but this badge, this uniform. And now we got to pick up the pieces and put it back together, because the public safety cadet program is a world-class program. It really, really is. And we're committed to seeing it through and making it better.
Chief, was this conduct ever reported to the department before the FBI reached out to you?
No, it was not. First we heard about it was December 13th, 2019 from the FBI.
Last question, guys.
Is there anything parents or young people can learn from this that he did that maybe are some warning signs that somebody's head isn't in the right place?
Sure, and what we intend to do with the parents is to give them that type of visibility. What should you look for when your child's participating in any program, whether it's sports, music, after school, theater, the arts? As a parent of 4, it's certainly helpful for me, even being in this profession, to know the right questions to ask and to know the things to look for, the changes in the behaviors of our children that sometimes we as parents think are, just teenagers being teenagers. But there are certainly warning signs out there. And if we can improve the public safety cadet program and the police cadet program to include those types of visibility recommendations to parents, that's something we're going to do as well.
Thanks, Chief.